Welcome to the Data Stream, the podcast that dives deep into the fast-moving currents of data, technology, and the law. BakerHostetler's Digital Assets and Data Management Practice Group, DADM, brings you this series, hosted by partners David Sherman and Nichole Sterling, to explore how companies navigate the complex and often intertwined lifecycle of data, from privacy and cybersecurity to advertising, AI, and other emerging technologies. I'm Charlie May, and you're listening to Baker Hosts. On today's episode, David and Nichole speak with Ted Kobus, head of our DADM practice group, to discuss the evolution of BakerHostetler's fastest growing practice group and what he sees as the biggest data challenges facing companies today. Ted has been a leader, mentor, and counselor in the digital risk space for more than 20 years, working across privacy, data protection, and cybersecurity. According to Chambers USA 2025, Ted is a first call for any situation.
Ted, thanks so much for joining and welcome to the Data Stream. Nichole and I started this podcast to explore issues that keep our clients up at night with insights from our colleagues across the DADM practice teams, and we're really interested in learning about the legal challenges that you and our colleagues are seeing across the board. And since you were so instrumental in building this practice group, which kicked off back in 2020, we're curious, what inspired you to bring together such varied teams and create a unified and data-focused group?
Well, first of all, thanks to you and Nichole for not only doing this podcast, but for inviting me to participate in it. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to hear the discussions and interviews that you have moving forward. The group itself formed, like you said, in 2020, right before the pandemic. And a lot of thought went into what we were actually going to create. When I joined the firm back in 2011, can't believe it's been that long. I brought my practice over from another firm, and we were housed in the IP group, and the group kept growing, or the team kept growing. And it got to the point where we said, you know what, this is something bigger than it, the way it started. And I think we really need to figure out how we're going to continue to meet the demands of our clients and service them. So I went through probably a few years of iterations trying to figure out what would really work, and talked about a large privacy and data security practice group. I talked about a regulatory group, enterprise risks. And then ultimately, I fell back on my experience sitting at client sites for months at a time. I mean, my practice grew out of doing incident response. And there was times that I would be at a client site for literally months, sitting in their offices, sitting in their conference rooms, working with people across the enterprise. And what became abundantly clear to me through that experience was that the clients are really, really focused on data. They use data in every part of their business. They use it to drive their strategy. And no matter what type of company you are, you're dealing with data. And so I stepped back and I said, what would we need to have in place credibly? I didn't want a bunch of attorneys sitting on various teams and really having shallow experience and trying to sell that to clients. I wanted to see if we could really service our clients in the area of data. And I looked at the data lifecycle and how clients bring in data, how they use it, how they secure it, how they share it, how they use it outside the organization, and then ultimately how they either sell it or destroy it. And I thought that would be really cool to sort of, follow the data life cycle like our clients do, and deal with, so we're able to support general counsel and marketing and accounting and IT and IS and, basically any group within a company. And we came up with the Digital Assets and Data Management Practice Group, which we have now. And the goal really was to reflect how our clients do business so that they would understand what we do, and that they would become stickier and we would become more involved in their operations. And this is sort of where we ended up. So it was quite a process, but we really looked at our clients to see how they operated and really wanted to reflect what they were used to seeing internally on a daily basis.
Thanks so much. And if memory serves, I think I was your first lateral hire in the group, lateral partner hire at least, and you certainly sold me on the vision. So this year, DADM is celebrating its fifth anniversary. How has the practice group, which I understand is BakerHostetler's fastest growing practice group, evolved since its launch?
A lot has changed and a lot has stayed the same. We were very fortunate because the firm was embarking on its 5-year strategic plan, which meant the practice groups had to do that as well. And so we really had an opportunity to start fresh and figure out what direction we were going to go over our first 5 years. Interestingly, and this has become even more abundantly clear, the practice groups already in place at Baker, employment, tax, litigation, corporate, IP, they have decades of data to sort of inform them on business cycles and trends and things like that. We're brand new. We're starting from scratch. So we're now currently looking at our next 5 years. And what's interesting is a lot of stuff is still the same and a lot of stuff is different. And I think that's exciting because what we put in place originally with the launch of the group, it's still working really well. The teams are working really well. We may see some tweaks in the type of work that we're doing and some shifts in what we're focusing on a little bit, but generally speaking, the way the teams were set up have been super successful, and clients have really been receptive to that structure. I think the one thing that continues to drive our practice and keep us on our toes is the changing law. We see new laws in all these areas all the time, and then evolving technology. And that's really critical for the members of the group to stay on top of that technology because that drives issues such as defending litigation, compliance issues, regulatory issues, and things of that nature. Like I said, a lot is the same, and a lot is changing. Really, just because technology, the way we use technology, and the way the laws interact with that technology are changing a lot.
Over the past 5 years, what has surprised you most about digital assets and data management as a practice group?
I don't know if surprised is the right word. I mean, my practice grew out of doing, I was a litigator and before I got into this area, and I've been doing incident response now for over 20 years. And I don't think I'm surprised by a lot. I will say that I am pleasantly surprised, maybe, or very pleased about the way that our clients really accepted the practice group and understood it, how it resonated with them. Because, within my goal when I launched it, as I was talking, with firm management about this, my goal was that we would ultimately have clients who used all of the practice teams within the practice group. And within 3 months, maybe 4 months, we had a couple clients who were doing that. So that was really, really exciting for me. And I was very surprised, I think, a little bit that it was accepted so quickly and that what we were saying to them really resonated with them. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is I am very pleased with the way that the lawyers within the practice group understand what we're trying to do and that they're working together and across teams with their colleagues to sort of understand what they're doing and to help clients point them in the right direction when an issue that they don't necessarily deal with comes up while they're working with a client. So I think those things are really things that have made me very happy in seeing the launch of this group.
I can see that in my own practice. I think having been part of this practice group essentially since its beginning, I think over the 5 years, it's really become far more of a space where I'm working cross teams, where we have clients that are working cross teams. It's rare now that we have I think, a client that we're working with that is only dealing with one of the teams within the practice. But I'm going to ask you now to put on your proud dad hat with respect to the practice group. I know you're a proud dad in real life, so you should be able to do this. What has impressed you most about the practice group in the past 5 years?
Wow. I mean, that list goes on and on and on. And then I'll give examples and people will feel excluded. I am so proud of the way that our lawyers deliver service, stay on top of a rapidly changing legal landscape, and how committed they are to servicing the clients, helping other lawyers in the group, and really committed to just understanding and being true experts in their practice. It is so exciting. You know, we had a group retreat, I think was it last year? Time flies. And to see everyone together, engaging with one another, really happy to be together and to spend time together. It's just really something that's truly magnificent. And then it's fun to watch them grow together. It's fun for them to identify issues that other leaders in the group aren't thinking about. And I think that's truly remarkable. So, and to see how the industry and clients applaud our lawyers. Each year, new lawyers are recognized for contributions they've made in this space. And it really is exciting to see that and to see their careers grow and to see how they help us work with our clients and really make them sticky.
Well, thank you. I was going to say I had to come off mute because I'm going to tear up, Ted. That's so nice. Thank you. But no, but seriously, that's amazing. And if it's any proof to that, I mean, Nichole and I think, have two separate client-facing cross-team calls today alone. So it's proof in concept that this really does work. But shifting for a moment, anyone who follows you on social media is going to know that you travel a lot. You're the face of our practice, and you get to meet with all of our clients or many of our clients in person and others who support them, like cyber insurance carriers. What are you hearing in those conversations, especially when it comes to concerns about data?
Yes, I try to be on the ground and work with clients and work with different relationships who we've been working with for years and years to make sure that we're staying on top of things and that we're moving in the right direction and that our service is evolving to meet the needs of the stakeholders who work for us. And I think it goes back to what I was talking about the practice group. Some things really never change. And I think that everyone's concerned about new technology, how clients are using that technology, whether or not we have expertise to handle evolving issues, whether or not we have the bandwidth to handle a lot of issues. And because there could be situations where litigation comes in so quickly these days because we just have so many good results in that area. Incident response matters. It's almost as if they fall from the sky sometimes. Large, medium, and small matters, and that's all great. And staying on top of that's important. And clients' relationships want to make sure that we're going to be able to continue to support them. But I think in the end, one of the concerns that everyone has is, are our clients moving forward in ways that are helpful to understand how they should be managing their risks? And a question that continues to come up is, do I even know what data I have and what I'm doing with it? And I remember back in the day when you would do a privacy policy, one of the things that you would ask the general counsel, I'll never forget this, asking the general counsel, I'd like to speak to someone in marketing. And they were like, why would you ever need to speak to someone in marketing? And I'm like, well, I'd like to understand how they're using data. And they're like, we know how you're using the data. And then inevitably you'd get on a call with marketing department and the general counsel would say, oh my gosh, I had no idea we were doing that. And it was because of the experience that we had in dealing with these issues that we knew that was absolutely happening within companies. I think that still occurs. And the way that different parts of the company use data are very siloed. And I think we have to break down those silos and really work together. So I think the use of technology, if we really truly understand the technology and how companies are using data and what risks are associated with that data, I think are ongoing concerns and will be for a very, very long time.
So, given how much, and I want to follow up on that in a minute, but given how intense a travel schedule and working schedule that you have, and on top of that, having to herd 100 plus of us on a daily basis, right? The 100 plus lawyers on our team, how do you decompress? I know you have hobbies, but how do you kind of fit this all in and try to stay balanced?
Well, I love how you use the word herding, and maybe that's why I now have 8 baby doll sheep and 6 Nigerian dwarf goats, 2 livestock guardian dogs, Maremas. And I just got a text literally before we did that about miniature donkeys that I'm looking to get, which are just cute. One of my friends texted me the other day after I sent him pictures of our livestock, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm melting in their cuteness." And his reply was, "Why can't you just Google pictures?" But I have to say, I go down. In fact, this morning I got up very, very early, and I went down, and a couple needed medication, and I did my morning routine, refreshed water and hay and all of that stuff. And it's nice to see their smiles. Now, baby doll sheep literally have smiles plastered on their face, but I just like to believe that they're happy to see me. And I wish we had video here because they really are super cute. But it's just another hobby that I now have taken on, and I'm super excited. Oh, and I have 15 chickens as well. I have a little hobby farm that's growing, and I try to manage that in my free time. So thanks for asking about that. So if you ever call me and you hear you hear sheep in
I
the
do
background
sometimes.
or goes in the background, I'll take your call, and hopefully you'll bear with me while I'm tending to them.
No, fair enough, and maybe we can throw one or two photos in the show notes or something, or a link to them. But that's that's incredible. And then on top of that, I know that you're into photography, and again, you're just able to keep a balance that is pretty remarkable. So, thanks for setting a good model for the rest of us on that too.
Yeah, you know what? In this type of practice where you're moving very quickly, sometimes you just have to take those moments and enjoy what you can, and find a little time for yourself.
I've heard as well that donkeys make fairly good guardian animals too.
You know, we could do a whole podcast series on this, and I'm learning a lot as I go, and I'm very lucky. But the many donkeys aren't great livestock protectors because they're small. They're only like 32, 34 inches at the withers. And so, I mean, you're talking about pretty small animal. So the livestock guardian dogs are pretty good at that. And, but yeah, they, some people think that they do. I'll let you know how that goes.
They can learn something from the dogs.
I do have I do have a 10,000 volt electric fence, so that helps as well.
All right, so we'll move you back to data stuff for a second, and then we'll wrap up. So we've had 5 years of the practice group. Looking at the next 5 years, do you see sort of the data risks evolving in any particular way? And do you have any recommendations for things that companies can be doing or should be doing, should be paying attention to, that would help them in the next 5 years?
You know, it's hard to see around corners all the time. And quite frankly, who knows where we'll end up. I think these issues are going to continue to evolve. And I mean, the growth that we're experiencing is tremendous. And it's really because our client list is growing and our clients are using us for so many different issues, and it's really great to see because it gives us insight into industries in a way that others really don't get that insight, and we really do understand the operation. But one thing I think remains true, and I think that we really need to focus on it, and this is what I recommend for in-house people. Look, I have an understanding of how to spot the issues, and if you can become an expert in one issue, that's great. I think people try to become experts in too many things. And I think it's great to be an expert in a specific area and then have an understanding of how other things work. But the one thing that I think remains true is that you need to really understand technology and how it is being used. And I happen to have a chemical engineering degree, and I worked as a chemical engineer before I became a lawyer. But some of our lawyers who are deepest in technology and have a true understanding of how technology works are liberal arts majors in their undergrad. And so it comes down to not being afraid, not relying on a single person to inform you how a company is using technology or how they're leveraging it and what assurances they may have received from a third party who developed it. It's asking those questions yourself and not being embarrassed because you don't know. It's okay to ask questions. And the more questions you ask, the more you'll learn and the better prepared you will be for that next call. And so maybe because I was a litigator for so long, and my family always accuses me when I'm asking questions that will at least tell me this is not a deposition. And then so maybe I do treat things, opportunities to learn as depositions. But that's really the approach I would try to take and ask as many questions you can and validate the information you're getting and making sure you understand how technology was developed, how it's being used within a company. I think that's really important. And then staying abreast of different areas of the law in this practice by, you know, reading news alerts, whether they're done by BakerHostetler or someone else. It's great to read things written by other people, listening to podcasts, because it gives you an opportunity to form your own perspective, right? I loved when I was growing this group to be on panels. At first I was scared to death because did I really know what I was talking about? We're sort of making it up as we go. It wasn't a traditional practice, making things up, as we're working on new matters. And what I learned was, look, I'm going to listen to other people. Some things I think they're accurate about, some things I don't think they are, and I formed my own opinions. And I think that's really important for people. Gather as much information you can so that you can form your own opinions and sort of guide your clients and your relationships the way that you think they should be guided. And I think those two things, if you latch onto them, I think they can help you be successful moving forward.
I think that's good advice. And I think that some of the best attorneys, despite sort of any kind of background in whatever undergraduate degree, are those that are just sort of naturally curious and are constantly asking those questions and trying to get a better understanding of things. I do believe that there's a sort of natural curiosity that kind of drives good attorneys.
Yeah, and which is wonderful, right? And now we're seeing law school classes and certifications and all sorts of things, and it's giving them a foundation to ask those questions because I think you're right. People are curious and they want to learn. They're curious if they're invested, and this is a practice you really need to be invested in because it does take a lot of effort to stay on top of all the issues.
So, as a final question, I'm going to go back to something that I know is near and dear to you. How are the Eagles looking this year?
Go Birds! We're a month away and I'm already nauseous. And I'm excited. It could be a great season. We may start off maybe a slow start. We'll see. But I'm very excited. I think they're looking good, and I'm planning on going to see them kick the Cowboys' butt and see the Super Bowl flag raised. So go Birds.
Go Birds indeed. And Ted, for the record, I said it on a podcast. This is recorded and firm sanctioned. So there we go. It's proof.
Ted, thank you so much for joining our podcast and being our first interview on this new podcast series.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
If you have any questions for David or Nichole, their contact information is in the show notes. As always, thanks for listening to Baker Hosts. Comments heard on Baker Hosts are for informational purposes and should not be construed as legal advice regarding any specific facts or circumstances. Listeners should not act upon the information provided on Baker Hosts without first consulting with a lawyer directly. The opinions expressed on Baker Hosts are those of participants appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect those of the firm. For more information about our practices and experience, please visit bakerlaw.com.